Coming up next, CityNet 30 takes you downtown for the weekly luncheon meeting of the City Club of Portland. Live weekly coverage of City Club is made possible in part by TCI and is produced through the facilities of Portland Cable Access. Now we join the City Club for this week's program.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. If you'll just go ahead and finish quickly getting your table, please finish at the buffet line and come to your table as quickly as possible. We need to begin. I'm Frances Storrs, President of the City Club of Portland, and I want to welcome you to today's program. Today we are featuring City Commissioner Jim Francesconi. We do have a new member in the audience, Betsy Warrener, who is Coordinator of Volunteer and Agency Services at the Volunteer Center. Would Betsy stand so we can welcome her? Couple of announcements. At our meeting next Friday, May 8th, please join us for two important reasons. First, we will have a ballot measure vote on a study just completed on ballot measure 53, which is related to the double majority and will be on the May 19th ballot. Our special guest next week will be Dean David LeBron of Columbia University School of Law, who will present a unique approach and a successful approach to affirmative action. The program next week will be held at the Oregon Convention Center Ballroom, so please note that change in location. Our board host today is Ned Look, member of the Board of Governors and longtime citizen activist. He will ask the first question of our speaker. Following Ned's question, as is our custom, we will open the program to questions from City Club members in the audience. And if members with questions will please line up at this microphone right while Ned is asking his question. Limit your question to 30 seconds, and that way we can ask as many questions as possible of City Commissioner Francesconi. Broadcast of City Club programs this quarter is made possible in part because of corporate underwriting from Fred Meyer, Washington Mutual Savings Bank, and Stoll Reeves. We are grateful for their support. I am most pleased to introduce you to Portland City Commissioner Jim Francesconi. Commissioner Francesconi came to Portland over 20 years ago as a full-time volunteer in inner city Northeast Portland. He had graduated from Stanford University with an honors degree in history and the humanities, and in 1978 he added a law degree from the University of Oregon. He developed a successful workers' compensation law practice, and then with no prior political experience whatsoever, he ran for and won Mike Lindbergh's vacated city council seat, which he occupied in January of 1997. I see ex-Commissioner Lindbergh is in the audience and may have comments later. Although Jim Francesconi had no political experience, he had had an abundance of community experience and civic activism. He spent 8 years on the boards of the Urban League of Portland and the House of Umoja. He was chairperson of the State Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee and sat on numerous other committees and boards in the state dealing with children, justice, and private industry. In 1992, the Scanner newspaper gave him their Drum Major for Justice Award. At City Hall, his bureaus include General Services, Licenses, and Parks and Recreation. The Parks assignment has given Commissioner Francesconi an opportunity to experience community leaders, not unlike what he was, who don't always agree with him, and it has also given him a chance to learn how to negotiate the press as a politician. Even more importantly, though, it has allowed him a base where he can develop community partnerships to realize his favorite interests of increasing opportunities for disadvantaged youth, enriching neighborhoods, and ensuring a clean environment. I was amazed to learn of the liaisons a city commissioner is asked to develop. Commissioner Francesconi's include the Mayor's Business Roundtable, Public Safety Coordinating Council, the Regional Drug Initiative, Metro Policy Advisory Committee. But he also gets to serve the Rose Festival Association, must be nice right now, and the Taxi Cab and Towing Boards of Review. I'll bet those last two provide excitement right up there with parks. Jim Francesconi is a professional Italian who, with his wife Shelley of 17 years, has 3 children. Skiing and golf are his hobbies, and he would pursue them if he had time. He does take time for his family and for reading. His staff describes him as very hardworking, hand-waving, and humorous. He most generously exchanged his City Club assignment with Mayor Katz earlier this year. Today, we expect his arms and his heritage to assist him as he describes his first year in office and his plans for the future. Please join me in welcoming Commissioner Jim Francesconi.
That was a very kind introduction. I guess there was one correction, though. You said that I've learned how to deal with the press. That I have not yet done. And Mike Lindberg, you were the Parks Commissioner, weren't you, Mike? Where are you, Mike? I have a couple of issues that I think are going to come up during the question and answer that I would like you to handle. So I just want you to... City Club members, City Council colleagues, Commissioner Kafori and Commissioner Sten, who are here, and my other colleagues, and friends. Before I begin, I would like to do a couple things. First, I'd like to introduce my mom and dad, who are here, Leo and Ida Francesconi. My wife, Shelley, whose idea it was for me to run for City Council. Shelley? And my son, Brian, who you need to let me beat you once in tennis before you leave to go to college next year. I would also like to explain a light item in Commissioner Hale's transportation budget for all of you. Several months ago, I met a very active citizen at a neighborhood meeting in Multnomah. He was taking citizen initiative that I know something about to a whole new level. He was standing at an intersection, they were telling me, what he does regularly, a busy intersection in southwest Portland. And he stands with what drivers think is a radar gun. It's actually his daughter's hairdryer. So, when you see in Charlie's budget line items for hairdryers instead of speed bumps, you will know where that came from. 3 years ago, I made a decision to stop running my business and to run for Portland City Council. Like you, I wanted to make a contribution to our community. Like you, I saw challenges and opportunities. Through my work in the neighborhoods, I had learned the power of what individuals working together with good leadership can accomplish. When I made my decision, I was determined not to forget those neighborhood voices who daily contribute to the viability of our city. I was determined to bring those voices into City Hall decision-making. 18 months after the election, I'm still committed to involving the diversity that is Portland in running this city. Making connections is still my bottom line. I've been working hard to stay connected outside of City Hall, and it is a little harder to do than I thought. We have intelligent, committed people in our neighborhoods, in our small business districts, in our public schools, and in our downtown. People care. They're well-informed, and working together, they make a difference. We are blessed as a city and as a community, and I am hopeful that together we can solve many of the complex challenges that face us, especially as we grow. The defining assets of this community are the connections that we've maintained with this place and with each other. Without those connections, we lose what it means to be a community. We lose what it means to be this community. It is the work of all of us to keep the threads of community from unraveling. There is always this work before us, come rain or shine, come boom or bust. For me, at this time in our history, there are several threads in our community fabric that are in danger of unraveling, thereby weakening the overall fabric of our city. First, there are more of us, and we're not exactly happy about that. Rapid growth threatens our sense of place, those things which make Portland and Oregon unique, those things which make our and this growth creates tension in our neighborhoods. Second, while prosperity has fallen like rain on the region in the last 10 years, it has not fallen evenly. There are a lot of big winners in the prolonged economic boom we've experienced, but not everyone is a winner. 23% of Portland's children live below the poverty level, and 75% of those children are children of color. Because of prosperity, some of us are now hardwired to the Dow Jones, while others are still scrambling to find the door into the economy. That's a disconnect with the American dream that threatens our entire community. Another thread of the community fabric is fraying badly, namely those public places where community comes together, our public schools and our public parks. Schools, parks, jobs, and kids. We can have a lot of things go right and still become a threadbare, faded community if we don't stay connected to our kids, our schools, and our parks. And if we don't make sure that everyone is connected to economic opportunity. So that's my agenda, and here's what I'm doing. First, I am working with others in this room to strengthen our public schools. Among cities, Portland's abiding commitment to its public schools make us a place to envy. That heritage is at risk. Second, I'm working to provide a safe place after school for every child and access to a public park for every citizen in every area of the city. Third, I'm working with the private sector, including small businesses, our universities, and others, to retain and attract living wage jobs to our central city and our neighborhoods. Our families need this. Fourth, I'm working with community leaders to provide alternatives to youth involved in violence and gangs. We have to engage them, give them options to become productive citizens. Locking these kids up should be our last resort. Let me repeat: schools, parks, jobs, and kids. The first priority is our schools. Right now, our public schools are our most vulnerable institutions. An old Chinese proverb illustrates how important they are. It goes like this: if you're planning for a year, sow rice. If you're planning for a decade, plant a tree. If you're planning for a lifetime, educate a person. In Portland, more than 90% of our parents send their kids to public schools, where they learn an understanding of the human experience, a shared sense of community and civic values, as well as the analytical skills and abilities to communicate and work with many different kinds of people. Unlike many American cities, the middle class has not fled because our schools, our public schools, keep the city safe. Our public schools keep families and businesses in the city. At last year's annual real estate investment forecast breakfast, Wally Harding, a well-known Portland mortgage banker, eloquently put into perspective the importance of our public schools. While we are working for the good of all, let us not forget the one great underpinning of our economy and our future: education. The importance of K-12 education and beyond, including graduate and continuing education, is the breath of life that will perpetuate this region. In the last 7 years, the oxygen has slowly been cut off from our public schools, precisely when we need them to be strong. What can the city do to help the schools? First and foremost, we must continue to advocate for a statewide solution to the education crisis, a statewide solution that helps all children in all districts across the state achieve a world-class education. Second, we must be an active partner with all the school districts in Portland, especially when they are in crisis. I do not believe that the city should take over the schools. The city has enough to do without the responsibility of assuming the education, or taking care of the education of 50,000 young people. The Portland district is in crisis, and the City Council has consistently been there to help. At my request, the school board has agreed to an outside performance audit by a private accounting firm. I'm confident that this will identify further financial savings and efficiencies. But foremost is my hope that the audit will help restore public confidence in the district. We're going to need that when we go back to Salem to lobby for all of our schools. In the meantime, Interim Superintendent Diana Snowden's budget has given hope to the district's parents. The City Council has reinforced that hope by agreeing to contribute $7.4 million to Portland Public School District. In exchange, the city will receive excess school property that will be used primarily for much-needed parkland in park-deficient areas of our city. We help the schools and the neighborhoods at the same time. Third, the city can do much more than just give money to support the schools. Parks and the schools can work together on after-school programs for kids, among my highest priority. Between 3 and 7 p.m. is when kids who have no place to go get in trouble. And middle school kids are the most vulnerable. There are programs for elementary school, but we're losing kids in middle school. So we're focusing our energy there. There's many good programs that already exist at University Park Community Center, and I wish Lee Jenkins was here, because of the generosity of Intel, wish Intel was here, and the commitment of Director Lee Jenkins. Intel's African American employees train Roosevelt High School students on computers. Those Roosevelt High School students then train other middle school students in the community center after school. At the new East Portland Community Center, which we thank Commissioner Hales for his leadership role in building, we will be creating intergenerational learning opportunities where senior citizens will teach photography and painting to the Floyd Light Middle School students, who in turn will help seniors get over their fears of computers and get them into the technological age. Despite these successes, it is clear that government cannot do this alone. We have to work as partners with the community. I have helped build a coalition of 200 private sector employers who have provided 700 jobs to high-risk youth through the Youth Employment and Empowerment Coalition. These are the types of collaborations we need between business and the public sector. We're currently forming such a coalition that will include government, foundations, church leaders, employers, and nonprofit agencies. We're about to announce a major contribution from a Portland corporation to this effort. Fourth, the cities can provide work experience for students and for their teachers in our bureaus and encourage other businesses to do the same. School to work is a powerful strategy to make education more relevant to our children. I have asked all of my city bureaus to participate, and I see that they're here, and I thank them for that. For example, the Parks Bureau is working with Whitaker School and associated general contractors to establish after-school programs that will employ union apprentices to teach middle school kids applied math and science. The kids will then use these skills not only to meet the sim and cam standards, but to build a restroom in a nearby park. Fred Meyer already trains Cleveland High School students in accounting. AT&T has created the Institute of Science and Math at Grand High School. Wells Fargo Bank supports the Financial Services Academy at Jefferson High School, a school that we all must rally around and support, especially now. David Douglas High School, actually where I had breakfast yesterday, is nationally recognized for its bank and cafeteria run by the students for a profit. And you don't have to be a large employer to contribute. Tony Arnerich over here from Arnerich, Messina and Associates has developed an award-winning math and science program geared for at-risk middle school youth. Tony furnishes both funding and his employees to act as volunteers. He's here today with Lynn Smith, the principal of Beaumont Middle School, Sheila Kelly, a Beaumont teacher, and the students. So you can ask the students how it really works after this. And we hope that you employers here will talk to them about how they did it so you can help. We also have a menu of school-to-work opportunities at the table in the back for anyone who's interested in learning more about this vital program. K-12 is not enough. K-12 is not enough. Finally, many of our young people are prematurely disconnected from education because of the lack of strong linkages between K-12 and our community colleges and universities. According to the Oregon Business Council, only 25% of our students go on to college. With my support, the city has now helped fund the University District's Urban Center, which will finally give PSU a campus hub. But there's more the city can do, such as contracting with PSU for services, engineering, small business assistance, improving water quality on the Columbia Slough, and more. Above all, I also want the city to support Portland State in the legislature, with the governor and the State Board of Higher Education. Second priority, second community gathering place, our parks. Next to our schools, our parks are our most important public gathering places. We cannot talk about our sense of place without talking about our parks. They're places where we come together as neighbors and members of a community. Neighborhood and community parks, such as Irvington and Harney Park, keep families in our city. Regional parks like Washington Park attract tourists and visitors. Businesses benefit from Waterfront Park and from Pioneer Square. As Parks Commissioner, I can tell you the people of this city love and fiercely protect their parks. I have the scars and the dog bites to prove it. Jane Glazer, a good citizen of Portland, described our needs for parks more eloquently than I can. She said, "We need peace, a place for quiet thought, something we call sacred in the profane world. In an area packed with shoulder-to-shoulder built environment, the human spirit hungers for the majesty of nature, its visible mystery. The old and young alike need its blessing, its beauty, its gift of comprehensible scale." So what do we need to do to preserve and enhance our park system as we prepare for the 21st century? First, we must maintain and care for what we have. Although parks are a critical part of our infrastructure, the city still doesn't direct sufficient resources to maintain them. Did you hear that, Commissioner Kafori and Commissioner Stan? Write that down for the other two, would you please? We have 2 staff people to maintain 5,000 acres in Forest Park, one of the largest urban natural areas in the world. My highest budget priority has been to correct these deficiencies. Yes, we flattened the organization by eliminating 400,000 in middle management positions. With the passage of this budget, we've restored nearly all the budget cuts that have crippled parks maintenance. We will restore online workers who mow grass, plant flowers, maintain ball fields, gardens, and golf courses, and care for more than 10,000 acres of parkland. I've had the privilege of going around with them as they do their job. By the way, I should say should be very proud of the city workers that we had. I had no idea when I was on the outside how dedicated and committed they are to this city. But there will never be enough money in the city budget to properly maintain all of our parks. So Parks Director Charles Jordan and the staff have formed partnerships to reduce parks maintenance costs. For example, the school children from Lincoln Elementary School near David Douglas have adopted Lincoln Park next to their school. They pick up trash and they plant and care for the trees. There are more than 3,000 friends of Portland Parks who take responsibility to maintain parks across the city. Thank you all. We are now expanding our Adopt a Park program into other schools and neighborhood associations. Neighbors Northwest have entered into a stewardship agreement and are now caring for Cooch Park in Northwest Portland. We are in the process of creating Partners for Portland Parks, a separate nonprofit organization that will generate volunteers and resources outside of government to help us maintain and improve all of our parks. We would ask you to join and support us in that effort. Programs in parks like the Oregon Symphony and Lentz and waterfront parks can be expanded. Cultural events in neighborhood parks sponsored by churches and other civic groups can give cultural opportunities to families and senior citizens. Working closely with the arts community, we can showcase local talent and expose our children to the performing and visual arts. And we can do far more environmental education in places like Whitaker Ponds in Northeast Portland, where someday we will be able to take children fishing and teach them about water quality. As we prepare Portland for the next century, we must take advantages of opportunities to acquire more parkland. I am very proud of the role that I played in creating a park instead of a parking garage on the South Park blocks. But we must be equally aggressive about acquiring new parks in our neighborhoods. Parts of our city, especially the recently annexed portions of East Portland, have few parks. I've seen children, many of whom are Asian, Latino, or Russian, playing in driveways along busy streets, miles away from grass or swings or soccer field. This is unacceptable. We must heed the advice of Paulette Rossi, who I see here, a tremendous resource in our community. She recently sent me a note. As Parks Commissioner, follow the advice of Will Rogers. Buy land because they ain't making any more of it. Last year, I was able to set aside $500,000 from the general fund to buy parkland. The last time general fund dollars were allocated for such an acquisition, the GIs were returning to their families at the end of World War II. With that $500,000, we purchased a park in the Wilkes neighborhood in outer Northeast, who has been crying for a park for 20 years. As part of the city's financial commitment to the schools, Southwest Portland will have new parks. The general fund does not have enough money to purchase parkland before it is all gone, especially for our park-deficient neighborhoods. So I may ask the City Council to send Portland voters a request for a bond measure to complete the job of renovating, repairing, and maintaining neighborhood parks and playgrounds across the city. We want to create more safe places for children to play and learn after school. We also want to step up our efforts to protect the Willamette River. I am working with Commissioner Sten to do just that. With the current federal, state, and regional interest in the health of the river, this is an opportune time for the city to pay attention to this tremendous resource. The river should also be a community gathering place that not only brings together neighbors, but neighborhoods. It is time to unite the east side of the river with the west side of the river. The East Bank Esplanade project offers us this opportunity. It offers us the chance to complete a critical section of the 40-mile loop trail and to provide access to the river to long-neglected east side neighborhoods such as Brooklyn and Buckman. Willamette Cove and North Beach are similar opportunities just waiting to happen. Connecting the Greenway Trail will allow us to explore the river on foot or bike. It will expand opportunities for recreation and stewardship of the Willamette River, and it can bring us together, east and west, north and south. Finally, the management practices of the Parks Bureau must continue to keep pace with the best practices of both government and business. So just as I've asked for an outside performance audit of the Portland Public Schools, I will also be ordering a performance audit of the Parks Bureau, which will include a public review of all parks operating procedures. The third priority. As important as schools and parks are, nothing is more basic to a city's vitality than living wage jobs. Without a decent job, families don't have a chance. Families cannot afford housing. They can't pay the rent, so they're always moving, destabilized. Statistics show that domestic violence and abuse increase when there's no secure job in the household. How can parents actively participate in the lives of their kids if they constantly have to worry about where they're going to be tomorrow? How can they participate in the life of this community? They can't. And that's why jobs are part of my agenda. Our local economy has been strong during this decade, and our region has prospered, but it won't last forever. The signs are already there. Job growth in the central city has remained flat. Bank and utility mergers are costing more and more jobs in the central city and elsewhere. The entire city council has demonstrated its commitment to good jobs by reinvesting in a rejuvenated Portland Development Commission. At my request, this budget will contain additional resources for business retention and recruitment. The council is also committed to working with the North Macadam property owners to help OHSU at 8,000 employees, already the largest employer, to expand in the city rather than in the suburbs. Perhaps our best long-term economic development strategy remains the construction of South-North Light Rail. South-North is a sound regional investment, but for Portland and for Portland neighborhoods, it is vital. But we can't stop here. We need a much more aggressive partnership with the Port of Portland to expand freight transportation and international trade, and a much more effective partnership with Portland State, especially their engineering and applied sciences department, so that we can create more spin-off businesses from the high-tech industry right here in the city. We need an industrial policy which takes advantage of the presence of industry giants such as Gunderson's and Freightliner. We need blue-collar, working-class jobs in our city, in our industrial sanctuaries, which are located right here. And just as importantly, we need a small business strategy, a neighborhood development strategy. No voice, frankly, is heard less, at least by me at City Hall, than small business. I have walked door to door in business districts in Hawthorne, Hillsdale, St. John's, Hollywood, MLK, and Alberta. Pride, vitality, job growth, and hope for the future exists in abundance in all these districts. Local business districts build a community of interests. I'll never forget what Bishop Wells, the past president of the Albina Ministerial Alliance, told me shortly after founding the Youth Employment and Empowerment Coalition. He said, "We don't need large corporations across town raising our children. We need businesses that we own right here in our community. Businesses where we can train our own young people and teach them to be productive members of the community." I'm very, very proud of the work that I am doing to help revitalize the Lentz Business District. Now, Mayor Katz, Commissioner Kafori, and I are working with the Bureau of Housing and Community Development, PDC, and the Business District Associations to create a comprehensive strategy that will help us focus on the needs of small business in our neighborhoods, starting with St. John's. We're also talking with lending institutions about making more small business loans. We're working on partnerships with Portland State to expand technical assistance, and with Reach Community Development to offer community organizing strategies to small businesses. Finally, in the long term, success in schools, parks, and jobs will keep Portland a vital community. But in the short term, we need a strategy to continue to secure our community and keep it safe. We need to take guns out of the hands of our children and replace them with a diploma and a paycheck. We can no longer sit idly by while our children threaten our neighborhoods and each other with guns. Just this week, there was a daytime drive-by shooting at a community college. Over the years, I've been to too many gang funerals. 10 years ago, fights ended in black eyes instead of brains splattered on sidewalks, and handsome young men, usually black, placed in coffins in the earth. I am proud to work with the Mayor, Chief Moose, Sheriff Noley, U.S. Attorney Olson, and the FBI in coordinating a tough law enforcement approach, similar to the efforts launched in Boston. If our children use guns, they need to know that the consequences will be swift and certain. They will be removed from this community and from their loved ones for a long time. But I don't want us to be known for a city that only locks up her children. When I recently phoned Boston to ask what was not working, I was told that those who wanted to leave gangs had no alternatives, no employment, no after-school programs, no schools that would accept them back and give them the skills that they needed in the first place. We won't repeat that mistake here. We've already formed a coalition with the churches, the governor, Multnomah County, and other community leaders to provide a safe pathway, an exit for these young women and men who choose to do the right thing. This safety net will be provided by ministers such as Pastor Tate and Pastor Bethel from Northeast Portland, service providers that we owe tremendous debt to, like Johnny Gage, who's here, and Robert Richardson from House of Umoja and Emmanuel Temple, and Maria Elena Hawkins from the Oregon Council for Hispanic Advancement. Boy, do we not serve Latinos in this city. This coalition will support existing programs that have already proven to be successful. Mentorship programs for high-risk youth, employment programs, after-school programs, increased support for alternative schools, and a drop-in center for youth who can be diverted from the juvenile justice system. But for this plan to succeed, we need your help. Without the community demanding an end to youth violence in all parts of the city, it simply will not happen. Government can build more jails that we all have to pay for, but we can't protect our neighborhoods and our children without the active involvement of our citizens. We need parents. Take responsibility for disciplining your kids. Neighbors, take responsibility for caring for the kids in your neighborhood. Employers, continue to take a chance and offer employment to these kids, many of whom have never worked before. I especially want to acknowledge Sisters of Providence and Nordstrom's, who continue to offer a lifeline that many employers in Boston and throughout the country have not done. Members of the legislature, some of whom are here, enact stronger gun laws to keep guns out of the hands of criminals and return to local jurisdictions the authority to regulate the sale and distribution of firearms in our community, especially cheap handguns that contain no trigger locks or safety devices. Senior citizens reach out to these kids, teach them, Help them imagine that they too can grow old with dignity instead of dying before they reach adulthood. And we need all the rest of our citizens to volunteer in the schools, in our after-school programs, our churches, and other great programs that already exist. Call my office, we'll help you plug you in, or better yet, come to the youth convention on May 6th at the Oregon Convention Center where you can meet these people firsthand that are delivering these services. Agree to be a mentor to one child. If each of us did that, we might save a child, and collectively, we would be saving a city. In conclusion, it is clear to me that we have a lot of work to do, and good reasons for doing it. We are proud of being Oregonians. As we take on these tasks, we need people like you, inside and outside of government, working together to solve problems, people with diverse talents, experiences, and perspectives. By working together and forming relationships with people different from ourselves, we come to realize that we have common hopes, common fears, and we share a common future. By working together for our schools, our parks, and our children, we come to realize that our lives are strands in a larger fabric, that we are connected to one another. We put into practice the wisdom contained in Franklin Roosevelt's fourth inaugural address. We have learned that we cannot live alone. Our well-being is dependent upon the well-being of others. Across the world, yes, but more so across the street, across the neighborhood, across the river. And we become a community that takes care of this place, a community that takes care of each other, a community that takes care of her children. I urge you to be an active participant. Thank you.
Our speaker has already answered my first question, and that is that he's a member of the City Club. My second question, and really my primary question, I was tremendously reassured by his commitment to our parks. They are the very heart of our city and the very heart of what we're talking about, and to have the kind of a commitment that he has is most reassuring to all of us who realize, as he certainly does, the importance of it. The one thing that he has not answered for me, and that is specifically, when is he going to put this ballot measure on the ballot so that we can vote for it? In 1992, there was a survey made, Jim, that had the needs of the park at about $110 million. At that time, it was felt that this was more money than we should had any right to expect that the voters would approve. And a measure for $54 million was presented and passed. As Jim has shown us, that money has been very, very well spent. My question again, Jim, is when are you going to specifically go to the voters again for the balance of their original commitment?
How many of you think I planted that question? Actually, I did not. I was expecting actually something else. The answer is I'm going to go to the City Council regarding parks. Commissioner Kafori is going to go regarding fire stations to the City Council in the next couple of weeks. And if we decide to proceed, the election would be in November. Frankly, what I'm doing now is talking with people. There's a lot of things on the ballot, and I am concerned about taxpayers, but I also know the issue that you pointed out, the crying need for parks to complete the renovation, but also to provide these safe places for our children. So I'm actually in the process now of calling people to test levels of commitment, because it is also clear to me that I can't do this by myself. Just like, I can't do any of the things in this speech by myself. So I actually need your help, and I'm in the process of calling you to test that level of commitment before I recommend to the City Council how we proceed. Yes, sir.
Kurt Krause, City Club. 4 weeks ago, we heard from Keith Thompson of Intel how important it is to stay abreast of customer needs. The city is not necessarily meeting its customer needs operating with the commission system that was of government that was adopted in 1913. 3 times City Club has studied the city manager form of government and has endorsed the move to city manager. Could you please give us your perception on separating political from administrative functions in a city manager government in which the citizens elect councilmen who in turn appoint a manager to manage the city's administrative functions?
When I ran for City Council, I was taking the position that the commission form of government was the right form of government. Now, having been there, I believe that more than ever, and I disagree with the City Club. The reasons for that is, if you look, are basically 2. If you look historically how the city has functioned, I think the government is functioning well. How did we just get rated as one of the best cities in America? That's the first point in terms of management, and Mayor Katz deserves that recognition. The second is Seattle has a manager form of government, and I see how dysfunctional it is, including the permitting process, which I've looked into. So the point is, I think your idea that you're automatically going to separate politics from administration is maybe faulty. The third point, and the most fundamental, is citizens. When you can have a city commissioner interacting with citizens, which I've had the privilege to do in neighborhood tours and business tours, they have direct access to decision making. And I just don't think you get that with the city manager form of government.
Perhaps it's time, though, for another study. Thank you.
And I hope a different conclusion.
Chris Smith, club member. In a few weeks, Portland is going to host Neighborhoods USA, which is a national conference of neighborhood associations. And in light of that, I'd like to ask you a question about neighborhood associations. I know that's an important area for you. Like parks, the city's neighborhood associations were asked to take a budget cut in light of Measure 50. And unlike parks, those funds have not been restored in the mayor's budget this year. I know that your office has worked with the neighborhood coalitions to assemble an ad packet to the budget for this year. I also understand that that ad packet may not be advanced. Can you tell us about specifically where that budget ad packet is, your feelings about support for the neighborhood association and coalition system, particularly in light of the fact we're now going to show off Portland as a model to the country in a few weeks at this conference?
The answer, the ad package is dead and gone, and it's not going to be funded now or in the immediate future. So that's the specific answer. In terms of the more general question of how do you engage citizens and what's been the value of the neighborhood associations, I have to tell you, I started out as a skeptic. My work in the neighborhoods sometimes before being elected did not involve the neighborhood associations. But I've actually had the privilege and opportunity to spend time with these folks who are doing a lot of good work, especially on the growth issue, although we don't agree many times. I do think, however, the neighborhood associations need to reach out more to the business community and to underrepresented groups, and they need to do a much more aggressive outreach program, because I also believe the neighborhood associations many times do not represent the citizens there. So where I'm at is we need to help them rethink their mission and how they're going to do that. In order to do that, it is very difficult. I've seen them, trying to get mailings out with no money in their budgets, and they're scrimped really thin. I can tell you also that I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the paid professional organizers that let me do volunteer activity. So the answer is we need to relook at this and see what they need to do to strengthen themselves and how the city can help financially.
Commissioner, you talked about the need to step up efforts on the Willamette River and talk somewhat generally about it. I wonder if you could elaborate on what your vision might be or some more specifics about your plan or approach.
Well, first, this is Mike Lindbergh.
I'm sorry, Mike Lindbergh, City Club member. Sorry.
Listen, when I started out running for City Council, I told Mike Lindbergh I was going to run against him. I did not realize until later how important he was, not only to the City Council, but to the city. If I had known that, Mike, I don't know that I would have run against you. I don't think I would have. In terms of the In terms of your question, we did get money restored in the budget for the Willamette River, thanks to the efforts of many people here. There's kind of a three-pronged strategy. First is North Beach and Willamette Cove. We need to bring them in, and we need to give them some help to plan that area. The second part is we need to help complete some things that are happening. We're working with Commissioner Stan in the River District, Centennial Mill, it may be time for that to go, to create a greenway there and access to the river for those citizens. The issue of macadam, I'm very happy with the work that Barbara Walker and Steve Shane are doing to try to create a greenway plan that will work in North Macadam. The East Bank is still the key. We need the East Bank to deliver, and we also look into Selwood. So what I'm saying is there's individual opportunities that we really need to explore, but then we need to revise the whole Willamette Greenway plan to see how we're going to tie this together. Your question about what my vision is, I guess my thought on that, Mike, and this is where we need your help. We need to reignite the vision of our citizens. We've lost it in terms of the Willamette River. So the work that you are doing with the governor to hold a conference on the Willamette River, the work that Commissioner Stan is doing, who's going to take the leadership role, and I'm going to work with him on this, to tie water quality to connecting the trail and making this a community gathering place. We're going to stop turning our backs on the river. We're going to use some of the resources from BES that can be used appropriately to clean up water quality. We're going to say, Governor, we need your help here. Senator Smith has already been approached by both Commissioner Stan and I, and he's willing to help, and Senator Smith's in a position to help. The thing we need most is our citizens. We need your help in reigniting the vision. Go ahead.
Sure. Let's try a different bureau for a moment. Dan Anderson, City Club member. The Oregonian has quoted you as to the effect that you would not oppose the granting of a specific liquor license because your hands were tied by state law. And yet the same state law specifically provides that licensees may be denied if the subject license is not demanded by public interest and convenience. And your license bureau routinely avoids any specific formal consideration of public necessity and convenience in their review process. And that lack of consideration has led to a situation in at least one low-income census tract where the aggregate occupancy capacity of all licensees is approximately equal to the resident population. Would you please comment on the apparent lack of interest on the part of the License Bureau in using existing statutory public necessity and convenience language as a vehicle to modify the city's current de facto license on demand policy and the attendant result in some locations of alcohol license saturation?
So your concern is alcohol license, not adult businesses? Just so I'm clear.
It's license saturation, that which, for example, in Chicago is commonly referred to as liquor lining.
The problem is that the state law, as interpreted by OLCC, has told us that we, as a city and as a licensing bureau, cannot do what you want me to do. We don't grant the licenses. We make recommendations to OLCC. Until the state law is changed, we cannot do, sir, what you would like us to do. I think the problem may be that the citizens of Portland don't know that. On the issue of adult businesses and bookstores, listen, I campaigned on it more than anyone. I would like us to be able to zone adult businesses away from our neighborhoods and away from our business districts where they're oversaturated. But I also have to follow the Constitution. So we have met just yesterday with city attorneys and residents from Beaverton to see if we can create a broader constituency to give us the power to zone, not censor, but zone adult businesses away from bookstores. Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I think you kind of missed the question. The state statute includes a public necessity and convenience test that your bureau never considers.
And that's because the state, the Attorney General, and all the lawyers have said that that interpretation is how the state interprets it, and OLCC.
That's the black letter language of the statute. There's no interpretation.
We can have a debate here, and I'll be happy to have it with you, but your legal interpretation is not that of the state attorney. Go ahead, sir.
Monroe Sweetland, member of the club. I live in Milwaukee. The one thing, this wonderful speech you gave today, and it is a real rallying cry for all of us who want to see Portland succeed and the Portland area succeed. But the one thing you didn't mention, except by reference later on, but we have surrounding Portland this whole the whole suburbia, from Gresham, Milwaukee, Oregon City, Beaverton, Lake Oswego, all of these, Hillsborough, wrestling with their own problems, and yet we can't cope with them. We tried to cope by establishing Metro, and it's done great and good things. But a testing time's coming no later than next week in the primary, whether we really meant it when we authorized and directed the establishment of Metro 25 years ago. I think you have to somehow find a more working relationship with all of our suburbs. Milwaukee showed it clearly when we recalled, by a thin vote, sure, but we recalled our mayor and
Sir,
three of our city council. Now, what can the city do to initiate a much closer tie with the suburban areas which are tied to you by every connection and are really part of the city?
It's a terrific question, and the truth is we have lost our ability as a city to affect our destiny on many issues because of what you point out. I am an opponent of city-county consolidation as presently talked about for that very reason. We need regional solutions. The last thing we need to do is create another county out there. And I strongly believe that. In the issue of affordable housing, you know, I did work with MPAC to try to create regional housing tools. That's the approach we need. Commissioner Stan has looked at a regional business income tax. We do need to share this burden regionally. I think Metro is going to be okay, but frankly, they need a lot of help. They're struggling with now implementing a tough thing. We actually need people to step up and help them and not criticize them. It's a very tough job. I want to answer a question. I'm not going to get to everybody. Come quickly with your question, because I want to answer a question that was addressed in this flyer here. Go ahead, sir.
Carolyn Timmerman.
Go ahead.
Yes. City Club member. I put my tag in my purse and I'll probably never find it again. But anyway, 3 years ago, I moved from Lake Oswego to St. John's, North Portland. And it seems like you guys developed a park that the citizens kept protesting against. And now I also hear that you're going to be putting developments on the Willamette River this side of the St. John's Bridge instead of putting parks. How can we as citizens get you guys to listen to us?
That's good. That'll get me into the, thank you. No, it's a tough issue. It really is a tough issue. Part of it, you know, I've been thinking a lot about this, actually. Specifically on Willamette, maybe Betsy, oh, I'm sorry, Betsy and Mike Houck. On the issue of Willamette Cove and how you've addressed it, it's going to be parks. We're going to have parks there, but we need a process involving the community. That's why we needed money in the budget to get citizens involved in the planning of that. It's very early. But in terms of the larger issue, you know, you're raising questions about my management ability, and I have things to learn. I ran my business for 20 years, but this is a different deal, and I do have things to learn. But I wanted you to step back a minute to try to look at the larger picture, and I've tried to do this as we make specific decisions. The first thing is, I have to remember that the parks belong to all citizens throughout the city of Portland. But I also believe that neighbors nearby parks deserve some special considerations. The second thing is, we need more parks in this city, and I've already addressed that, because the conflicts with growth are going to become even worse. The lingo inside the businesses, it's user conflicts, and we're seeing that at Mount Tabor and the Dogs. We're seeing this with the Holocaust Memorial that I want to talk about more. The third thing we need to do is be more careful with what we have inside our parks. I am looking closely at changing some existing policies that have existed about how much we are putting inside our parks, and I'm going to be talking to you more about that. The fourth thing is that process is very important. I made some mistakes on Mount Tabor in terms of the process, not the end result. At the end, we opened it up to the whole city council so they could hear it, and we got, most importantly, we have to remember that we got an open a dog run away from an open reservoir. That problem was there, and it had to be dealt with, and that was my first responsibility. But having said that, the process that we're trying to do is get people who disagree together to try to narrow, if not eliminate, the decisions. If that can't be done, I will make the tough decisions. I'm not in this forever. I'm going to return to the private sector, and I think I've already demonstrated the ability to make some tough decisions. I was against, the first 6 months, I was against dogs and human rights. I want to say a minute, though, about this Holocaust situation. This is a critical situation now. We have good citizens who have helped build this city.